Okay, I think we're doing it.
Rad.
Wow, he's made 136 movies. 137.
137 movies.
Yeah, it's
I've
crazy.
well, I can't wait to talk about the 12 I've seen.
There's a lot. Wow.
Yeah.
Shoot. There's stuff I forgot. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Movie Mood. I'm your host, Alex Van Horn.
I'm John Alberta.
And today we are talking Willem Dafoe, one of the great actors of his generation. And just looking at his filmography, he has been in a lot of movies, about 137 roles.
137 roles.
Yeah.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah, it's a lot. What are your thoughts on Willem, John?
Oh goodness. I have loved Willem since 2001, I'd say, back when I guess 2002 when I first saw Spider-Man. He of course played Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin, Spider-Man's nemesis, and yeah, little 8-year-old John was loving it, and then from there I just wanted more Willem Dafoe in my life.
I know it's hard. He has such a great role as the Green Goblin. It's hard, especially for us who grew up watching that. It's hard to disconnect him from that role. He's so, as Norman, he's pretty likable in the beginning, and then he's pretty despicable and makes some great evil faces as the Green Goblin. I think especially of that mask scene where he's looking at all the masks, and that's like the best scene in Spider-Man.
Yep, he's approaching the mirror with the newspaper and talking to himself. It's a great scene in cinema. But yeah, the many faces of Willem Dafoe is something worth talking about, because I think when a lot of people think about Willem Dafoe, they think about his larger than life roles and the eccentricity that he brings to the roles, which, I mean, to tell the truth, are some of my favorite roles that he's done. But he's also played very calm roles as well, which is something that we can talk with movies like The Florida Project and stuff like that.
Yeah, he definitely has a range of things that he can do. I mean, usually, a lot of times he gets typecast as that like creepy villain, but he's certainly not. I mean, he's not a villain in Platoon. He's not a villain in The Florida Project. But certainly he does get cast as that creepy guy in a lot of roles.
Right.
And I guess you could make the argument he's maybe kind of a villain in The Life Aquatic, but he's definitely
he's a little endearing though. He's
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, he's lovable. He's not scary.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, I think his work with Wes Anderson is something that we can discuss on here, as well as The Lighthouse at some point during this conversation.
Yes, that's right. Almost forgot.
Of course.
Yeah, I actually just saw his debut role yesterday. 2 days ago. I watched it. It's called The Loveless. And it's pretty worth watching.
Nice. What is what does he play in it?
So he plays a 50s biker guy.
Nice.
Who's like, this beatnik biker dude, kind of like a Marlon Brando type, who shows up in a southern town, and him and his gang sort of shake up the southern town. And it's actually Catherine Bigelow's first directing first movie, is her directorial debut, and it definitely has some of that like similar stuff going on, similar themes to Point Break, or even The Hurt Locker a little bit. It's about these sort of hyper masculine gangs that are they have their own little clique or whatever,
right?
But it's very much pretty homoerotic for the most part.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cast right now. It seems like there are only a couple people billed in the movie, a pretty small cast. So It really
Yeah,
gave
it's
him an opportunity
definitely.
to show off his chops, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the first time you see Willem, going hard, being Willem. He definitely has that, creepy look that he uses, his signature face. I don't think there's anybody in movies that has a more I guess impactful face. I mean,
Yeah.
he's very, very intense.
Yeah,
Um,
there's him, maybe Jim Carrey. Um,
yeah.
yeah, but
Yes, they can
for sure.
really
Do some
uh
work with their faces.
for sure.
Yeah.
And alongside that, I think it's worth talking about one of my favorites personally is To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah, I know you really love that movie. Willem
Yes.
Friedkin is the director of it,
Hmm.
correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's a big movie for me. I love, well, I think it's one of my favorite Willem Friedkin movies, even though it's not really talked about as much as The Exorcist or The French Connection. Um, Sorcerer for certainly is really good as well. Underrated William
Sure.
Friedkin, but yeah, I like to live and die in LA. It's kind of like I don't know, William Friedkin doing his thing in the
Would
80s.
would you describe it as like a neo noir?
Definitely, totally. I think people who like The Departed or the movies of Michael Mann, which I could go off about that, will definitely like To Live and Die in LA, or the movie Drive. I think Drive takes a lot from that movie as well.
Hmm.
And he's definitely a great villain in that movie. And certainly it's very similar to Loveless. Um, yeah. And he is this like artistic sensitive type, but he's also, this psychopathic gangster guy who's counterfeiting money. And I don't know, it's a very, very interesting role. And it's before he became really big. And it's sort of a good early role of his.
Sure, sure. So do you think he became big, I guess? And to me, he's always been kind of a character actor. Like I don't think
Yeah.
like when I think of Willem Dafoe, I love him, but I don't think like, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson leading man roles. But Willem Dafoe is, do you think his breakout was in Platoon?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think, it's not the lead role, but it's definitely one of the major roles. And I think that put him on the map. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I would think. Yeah. And
yeah.
he's pretty great in Platoon
Hmm.
also.
Yep.
Um yeah, and we could talk about Oliver Stone as well. He's an interesting director. We both have feelings about.
We do have feelings about Oliver Stone.
I love Oliver Stone. Even even his movies that are just ridiculous. Well, I'd probably say that I like all of his
Do you
movies.
actually love his movies?
I do. I
Oh,
I
okay.
like I like all of his movies up till after um anything after Natural Born Killers. I'm kind of like, I feel like he kind of lost his edge after
Okay.
Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I really do. Even though I don't agree with his politics all the time, I think he's a very, I don't know, he's an interesting filmmaker, very energetic.
Yeah, he is very energetic.
Yeah.
I will say, the editing in his movies is always sublime.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
and Platoon is kind of an interesting. It kind of stands out in his work because I feel like it's not like JFK and it's not like Wall Street. It feels more realistic than any of his other movies.
Right. Yeah,
And
agreed.
Willem is one of the core parts of that movie that bring it together.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, so he Willem Dafoe definitely had some big roles in the 80s. He like To Live and Die in LA, Platoon, The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
um, do you think that for you, To Live and Die in LA is probably what got you into his acting? when you look at his career from the 80s?
I mean, I think it's the same as you. I think I got into him from the Green Goblin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Spider-Man first. I think To Live and Die in LA had a big impact on me because my dad watched it a lot, and he
Mhm.
like had the DVD around. And I remember I wasn't allowed to play Grand Theft Auto, but when I saw that DVD, I was like, that must be what Grand Theft Auto is.
Right,
And I
right.
think Grand Theft Auto does actually take from a lot of the 80s gangster movies, Scarface, To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah, it's been some time since I've seen To Live and Die, but I remember it was very noir, but also very 80s, and it
Oh
it
yeah.
meshed it meshed together very well for me.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah,
there's some great neo noirs from the 80s.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the song that came along with the movie was a bop as well. So
Yeah, it's by the band Wang Chung,
yeah.
which is like a really I don't think they're a good band, but it really works. I actually have the vinyl of the soundtrack.
Do you?
Yeah, and it's very like yeah, it's super 80s, super uh new wave. That's what's called new wave music. Yeah. But it's endearing for me. I like 80s movies.
Right. Me too. Me too.
I
Um,
think last
but-
thing about To Live and Die in LA in LA, I'd say is that one of my favorite things about it, not only the style and sort of the realistic stuff, gangster stuff going on, but the chase scene is one of the best, bar none, I think.
mm, tell me
Um,
about that.
yeah, well, I guess William Friedkin is known for his chase scene from The French Connection,
Right. Of course.
where Gene Hackman is chasing the subway in New York, and apparently they paid off some subway guy to let them actually shoot it like how it is and in New York, which is insane. It's super dangerous. But they did it, and watching it is amazing. And To Live and Die in LA, I guess he was trying to one up himself, and they actually go through like LA freeway traffic, and they like shut down that, and it's a pretty big set piece in the
Oh wow.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably the best thing for me about that movie. Oh,
Nice.
Willem isn't in it. He isn't in that scene.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's a
But
great chase scene though.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I guess we could talk a little bit about Platoon.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Willem is great in it. He's very
Harley.
much like a Jesus figure almost in that movie.
Yeah, he is. He correct me if I'm wrong, but he's on the poster for the movie. The
Mm-hmm.
the
Doing
scene, his scene in the movie is
yeah, getting
yeah,
shot.
yeah, is the poster for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that Platoon. What can I add about Platoon?
We could talk about Oliver Stone some more if you want. I I guess what we're doing with this episode, just so you guys are aware, is we're not totally talking about Willem, but we're kind of riffing off of the things that he's done because he's worked with so many different directors, producers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's all over the place. He is all over the place in the industry. But yeah, so I mean, Platoon is probably my favorite Oliver Stone movie.
Mm.
You know,
And tell me about JFK.
so tell me about JFK. JFK. JFK is
What are your
not a
thoughts?
movie about John F. Kennedy. JFK is a movie about a conspiracy theorist in investigating the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And hey Kat, it's a Kevin Costner movie. Let's see what are my thoughts on JFK. I think I probably saw JFK at the wrong time in my life, Alex.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's watching for me, it was incredible. It was a really incredibly pessimistic view
Mm,
of um, society as a whole, almost.
true.
And watching it in 2020 America
Yeah.
was it kind of put me in a mood. Um,
Yeah, especially because, well, JFK is, it's all about the investigation by, I think his name's Garrison, where he was investigating the assassination of JFK. And I mean,
yep, Jim
the
Garrison.
Jim Garrison, yeah. And it takes everything that Jim Garrison thought for fact, which is really problematic. And it's a very like um yeah, it's a very like paranoid, kind of homophobic, um very distorted view of the assassination, but it has like an incredible cast. um Joe Pesci and Gary Oldman and Tommy Lee Jones and Donald Sutherland and Kevin Costner, Sissy Spacek, all giving like tremendous performances about this story that is kind of bullcrap, like total
Right.
bullcrap. Yeah. And you know uh, bullcrap being a replacement for another word in this instance.
Right.
But uh yeah, but I think I it's probably maybe my second, actually it comes close to my one of my favorite Oliver Stone movies, because it's just so crazy and so like assured of like how it is. But to tell the truth, it's true like nowadays, like a conspiracy theorist, ravings aren't really great right now, because so many people believe, like actually believe that stuff. And it gives you kind of like everything, like almost all of the conspiracy theories that are around the JFK assassination. It kind of just like fills you in on that and doesn't really say, you know, whether it's true or not. Um, and yeah, so if you don't know, like, it's BS, then I could see how somebody watching it would be like, what is up with this movie? Um, but I take it with a grain of salt and just enjoy it for what it is. It's
Mhm.
almost like, you know, a like a cokehead telling you about conspiracy theories, basically.
Right. And I think one of the things that affected me so much, not to get too political, obviously, but I I was watching this movie for the first time in the aftermath of the 2020 election, where
Mm.
the incumbent president is, you know,
Very much a
saying
conspiracist.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, just throwing theories out there without evidence that, the election was rigged and what have you. And to watch, Garrison as this government official throw out these conspiracies with very little evidence, and maybe just because he was homophobic.
Yeah.
It was tough to watch in that climate.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Well, I think he was like a closeted homosexual. And so I think that had something to do with his, like, I don't know much about it in real life, but I know it had something to do with his like accusations about it.
mhm.
But apparently the one guy was actually connected to the CIA in some way. But certainly like the Donald Sutherland character and other characters are kind of, I think, made up um, in a way, and are
Right.
just from Jim Garrison's mind, raving mind. Um, but I love it. But it's definitely a different thing than Platoon. And I think Platoon kind of stands out in his work as being like, yeah, not
And
not insane.
I mean, obviously, when you think about Oliver Stone, you think about the impact that the Vietnam War had on him
Yeah.
and had on his films, because he was a soldier in Vietnam.
Hmm.
So it had a very profound effect on his life. So So, you know, unlike Scorsese, who we were talking about last week, who definitely kind of looks at America, but his movies are kind of their own stories.
Yeah,
With Oliver Stone, you're getting very much his perspective about
definitely.
post 1960s America.
Right. And
Yeah,
yeah, I would definitely say JFK is like, it's a work of propaganda, basically. It is. And I don't think Platoon is.
I'd agree with
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
Platoon is a pretty honest portrayal of Vietnam. And JFK is is just very strong left wing propaganda. Yeah. But I enjoy watching it for what it is. I think it has really like beautiful colors. It's very like, yeah, it has really great colors, really great editing. And I think that's a lot. I think you could say that for a lot of Oliver Stone's movies, and especially after, I think, running up to Natural Born Killers, I think he was making some pretty high level films.
yeah. I'm going to his filmography right now. He was, yeah. I mean, I think Born on the Fourth of July. I
Yeah, Born on
actually
the Fourth of July is
I
fantastic.
quite like Born on the Fourth of July. It's a
Yeah,
very good movie.
also with Willem Dafoe.
Yes, yes. I think we kind of
Um,
miss him there. Oh, you made The Doors.
yep, The Doors is a good one.
Yeah.
There's one called Talk Radio, which I really liked.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in a while, but it's also worth watching. And Salvador, which he made before Platoon, which is also pretty fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's worked with Oliver Stone a lot,
Mm-hmm.
who's one of my faves. Did you see Snowden?
I have not seen Snowden.
It's worth a watch. I mean, it's pretty corny. And yeah, just the ending is really ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie. Let's put it that way. But it is kind of typical Oliver Stone in a
Yeah,
way.
I'll check it out. I'll add it to my list for sure.
Yeah, especially for the Nicolas Cage appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best part.
Do you know offhand, and I'm not trying to lead you anywhere, do you know
Mhm.
offhand if Nicolas Cage and Willem Dafoe have ever been in a movie together?
Yes.
Which one? Because we need to talk
There was
about that.
some movie with by Paul Schrader. I'm blanking on it. Uh, do, do, do. Mm, 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 mm. I can't remember.
It's okay. It's okay. It
It's like Dog
happens.
Eat Dog or something. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. I think about Willem Dafoe a lot. I think about like his
Oh wow, there's some movies I
persona, if you
forgot. Yeah.
will, and
Yeah.
and in a way, he reminds me of actors like Christopher Walken, Nicolas Cage,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Nicholson to an extent, and and I and those performances and those actors are some of my favorite actors. Just I I,
Yeah.
I know we've mentioned this in the past, but I love to see people have fun in roles.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and just go for it. And I think that they absolutely do so. So if there's a viewer out there who knows the Nicolas Cage Willem Dafoe movie, let me know, and I am adding it to my watch
Yeah.
list ASAP.
I'm pretty sure it's Dog Eat Dog by Paul Schrader, but I may
Okay,
be wrong. Have you oh Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart.
Have you seen Wild at Heart?
No,
Oh man. So we could talk about David Lynch.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's a fantastic movie with Nicolas Cage, Willem Dafoe as Bobby Peru, which is an amazing character. Directed by David Lynch, also with Laura Dern.
I love Laura Dern. She's a
Yeah,
fantastic
it's
actress.
it's really good. They play that one song a lot. Oh, I'm blanking on it, but it's got the really cool riff. Um, yeah, it's really great. Willem's role in it is amazing.
Okay,
He plays
Uh,
this guy called Bobby Peru.
right.
It's yeah,
So what is the premise of Wild at Heart?
So it's about Nicolas Cage is like, this like Elvis looking guy who is going on this road trip with Laura Dern, and they're like trying to chase them down, and they eventually get to this like town in Texas, and they meet this like skeezy, creepy gangster named Bobby Peru, played by Willem
And that's
Dafoe.
Willem.
Yeah, he was just one of those like, you know, typical David Lynch characters who's just like off the wall, and you're not sure if you should like laugh because it's just crazy or if you should be kind of disturbed. It is generally disturbing, that movie.
Right. Oh, and I'm looking at the cast now. You've got Harry Dean Stanton in there too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. This seems like it's worth the watch.
definitely. And I'm a big David Lynch fan.
Yes, you are.
As you know,
Yes.
he's up there with my top directors, top artists.
Yeah, you put him on your Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's on there. Do you have a favorite David Lynch movie or one that you sort of go back to?
The one I go back to is actually Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that my favorite David Lynch work is probably Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twin Peaks is fantastic.
Right.
And I love the new season as well. It's definitely a different beast than the first show, which is like, it's kind of like this avant-garde movie that snuck under the radar to get on CBS, or I think it was CBS. And so it's kind of cool. It's like this mix of like soap opera and, surrealism.
Sure.
And yeah, it's so good. And yeah, I guess the one I would go back to a lot, that's hard. I mean, yeah, maybe Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, Eraserhead. Yeah, actually it's probably Twin Peaks. I've watched Twin Peaks quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the opportunity to check out David Lynch's Dune?
I have not, no, but I would like to. I've heard mixed reviews from people.
Right.
And I think he considered it a failure, but I think there's some good parts to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe Denis Villeneuve is directing. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. They got the new Dune coming out.
Coming out on HBO Max.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Did you hear Christopher Nolan? Did you see what Christopher Nolan's saying about all that?
Yeah, he is not too happy about it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see, the effect that move by Warner Brothers has on the film industry in 2021.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think I'm all about it. I think it's the safe way to go, and probably movies have been moving to the internet more than people know, and it's just like a matter of just like we gotta get with it, gotta do it.
Right.
But Christopher Nolan's complaining about it. Oh well.
Yeah. And then people are counter complaining, saying that it's his fault because the release of Tenet was a failure.
Yeah. Yeah, there are people on both sides. Some people are like, on Twitter, people are angry about Christopher Nolan releasing Tenet in theaters. It's an interesting time for everybody and for cinema.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I would check out Wild at Heart. It's definitely worth a watch. So another one that I forgot about. Well, there's Clear and Present Danger, which is not good. We both agree, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty boring. He's the highlight of it, though.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Yeah, he's kind of like a military commando character.
Yeah,
named John Clark, who comes along with who works with Jack Ryan on his adventures.
Guess what?
What?
He played a character in a movie called Lulu on the Bridge named Dr. Van Horn.
What?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Right there on IMDb.
Oh, this is exciting news.
He played my mom.
So you're going to check this out soon.
I got to watch it.
You have to.
I need to watch all the Van Horn films. I think
Yep.
Jack Nicholson also played a Van Horn at one point. I got to see it.
Yeah.
Have you seen The English Patient?
I have not seen The English Patient,
It's worth a
but
watch. Yeah.
it looks pretty long.
It's very long. I actually, yeah, it's kind of boring. I would skip it.
You'd
Uh,
skip it.
yeah, it's very like, well, I think probably you would like it because it's in that vein of like Titanic and Lawrence of Arabia, of like 3 hour romantic epics.
No, I probably would love it. I want to
Yeah,
make sure I'm in the headspace to watch it before
for
I,
sure.
because I was not in the headspace to watch another epic JFK,
Yeah.
and it affected my perspective on the movie pretty dramatically. So
Huh. Maybe we'll
yeah,
watch it again and you'll think differently.
yeah, who knows?
How about Boondock Saints?
Oh, of course, everybody's seen Boondock Saints.
What are your thoughts on Boondock Saints? I have pretty strong opinions, but I've only seen it once.
I've only seen it once as well, so and I don't have strong opinions. So tell me yours.
I don't like it.
Okay,
I don't think it's good. But I think it kind of is like that Fight Club thing where like everybody in high school really loved that movie. We're like,
sure.
dude, it's like so epic. It's so epic. You gotta check it out. And then you watch it and it's all right. I think it's pretty overrated. But it's kind of a cult film at the
Gotcha.
same time. Um, yeah, I think it's okay.
Now, yeah, I took to what one of the things that you said, that Boondock Saints for high school boys is
Yeah,
right up
yeah.
there with Fight Club. Now, Fight Club is of course quite good movie, but it's
Hmm.
certainly misinterpreted by a lot of the people who really like it. Uh,
Yes, for
so
sure. I think people there's a big part of the population that watches Fight Club and wants to make a Fight Club. So
right, exactly, and that is not the point of Fight Club.
nope. Yeah,
But
it's a
do you
satire
think
about
there?
men.
Yep, toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
Do you think there's anything underlying and worthwhile that the high school kiddos missed in Boondock Saints, or do you
I
think
don't
it's
know.
just? Do you think
Well,
it's
I think he's the best part
okay?
for sure. He's the best. He has the best role, and he's super good in his role, and it's very much like a good Willem Dafoe role. Um, I don't know, but also it's kind of an indie movie at the same time. Like I guess it was kind of made around that time when everybody was trying to do Pulp Fiction, um, was trying to be part of the Weinstein Company.
Right.
But I think it falls short of something like Pulp Fiction. Um, but it's trying.
Hmm.
What about American Psycho?
American Psycho. I forget he's in American Psycho.
Yeah, he's the
Oh my goodness, he's
detective.
the detective. Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
he's perfect for that role. He's very
Yeah,
creepy.
yeah. It's the movie as a whole kind of has you on edge, and
Mhm.
then when he joins in on the fun, it creates kind of a downward spiral for Patrick Bateman there.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah. What are your thoughts on American Psycho?
I like American Psycho.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
too.
I do too. It's I think it was Christian Bale's performance as an adult that kind of made him a household name.
That's true.
Prior to
Yeah.
Batman, I mean, he was of course a young actor as well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, American Psycho is good.
Yes.
I
Very disturbing, but very
Yeah,
good.
incredibly disturbing, incredibly violent. So, but definitely a an interesting satire about Wall Street culture in the 1980s.
Yeah. And it's definitely similar to it kind of falls in that vein of like Fight Club and American Beauty, where it's like that like 90s, 2000s, I guess election too, where like is about the like men like trying to figure out like their roles in society kind of.
Hmm.
And it's like a satire of all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an
and just a
interesting
sense
movie.
of entitlement that
Hmm. Yeah,
these
for
ridiculous
sure.
characters have, for sure.
Yeah, and he's his big hero, and I don't know if it's he says it in the movie, but in the book, it's Donald Trump. So
Yes, very
yeah,
true.
it's a satire of Donald Trump in a way.
Yep.
Yeah, and which brings us to Spider-Man. Back on to Spider-Man.
Back onto Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, he's also Finding Nemo. I forgot about that.
Yes. Yep. He's there, but yeah. He's awesome in Spider-Man. He is still probably my favorite
Spidey
superhero
villain.
villain. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I think I agree. Yeah, I think so as well. He's a very good superhero villain because you can definitely relate to him, but he's also super scary and disturbing. What are your thoughts on Sam Raimi?
I love Sam Raimi.
Me
I
too.
absolutely love Sam Raimi.
Me too.
I think Sam Raimi is a terrific, I guess, kind of independent horror director, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And even his and everybody thinks about Evil Dead and stuff like that, but even his more recent horror movies like Drag Me to Hell,
Mm-hmm.
They're great. They're so he does a lot of really good work with he does a lot of good work with gore.
Yeah.
And then he kind of has staples and tropes in his movies, like Bruce Campbell showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that some of those things are brought into his Spider-Man movies. I think that makes his Spider-Man movies pretty unique in a genre that can kind of become pretty formulaic.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man's definitely a Sam Raimi movie, but it still appreciates like the Spider-Man origin stuff. Like Green Goblin definitely takes a lot from the Evil Dead with like everything popping out at you and just
Right.
like giggling and stuff. It's kind of like that whatever creature from Evil Dead. Yeah, that's true. And I think we also talked about this earlier, the Dr. Octopus scene from
Yeah, the
Spider-Man
hospital
2.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite of the Evil Dead movies?
So I have not seen Army of Darkness.
It's worth a watch.
I know
Yeah.
it is.
I've seen too much.
But between 1 and 2, I think I've got to go with 2.
Yeah.
Just because it goes into that horror comedy aspect, which is something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Like movies like An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. I think because there's something inherently comical about over the top horror movies that that when a screenwriter decides to embrace it, it becomes pretty good.
Yeah, I think some of the best horror movies are funny too. Like
Yeah.
I think The Shining not so much, but something
No.
like Get Out even kind of takes from Jordan Peele's Key and Peele skits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that like last line in Get Out is a joke,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for sure, I think horror has a lot to do with comedy. I think they're connected in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think I'd probably say Evil Dead 2 is my favorite Sam Raimi movie. I haven't seen Drag Me to Hell, but yeah, I do like
It's
his
fun. It's a wild ride.
Oh yeah, and they had Ash versus the Evil Dead, which was a good show.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
I think he directed a few episodes. Yeah.
And then after Spider-Man,
Finding Nemo. What are your
Finding Nemo?
Have you seen Autofocus?
No, I haven't.
It's weird. I don't really recommend it, but I mean it's Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader's good, but it's kind of like it's meh. It's aight.
Gotcha.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Haven't seen
that one?
No.
Really?
Yeah,
it's
really.
worth watch. Well, it's probably not my favorite of the Robert Rodriguez, but it's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
It's in the El Mariachi movies.
Right. I'm big on Spy Kids myself.
Oh yeah.
That's probably my favorite Robert Rodriguez.
Lava Girl, Spy Girl, Lava Girl,
Shark
whatever
Boy
it
and
is.
Lava Girl.
Shark Boy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think
Speaking of the ocean, The Life Aquatic.
yes. Yes, The Life Aquatic. I was that his first collaboration with was that Willem's first collaboration with Wes Anderson?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think
they've done quite a few movies now.
they have. They have.
Yeah.
And I think The Life Aquatic certainly had pretty significant impact on our youth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
But
us in particular. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, Willem Dafoe's kind of a villain in it, but he certainly brings that endearing quality that he brings to all of his roles throughout.
Yeah. He's a good character. He's very like lovable. His character Klaus is this, he's this guy who, is really connected to Bill Murray's character and he's like a big part of their team. It's not my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but it's up there, I think, just for nostalgic factors in a lot of
Sure.
ways.
What is your favorite
And
Wes
for the
Anderson movie?
probably Rushmore.
Interesting.
But Grand Budapest Hotel kind of it's different than the other ones, but it's up there for me for sure. And Royal Tenenbaums.
Okay.
How about you?
The Royal Tenenbaums, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Royal Tenenbaums is great.
Yeah. I love Gene Hackman. I love Angelica Houston, and that was one of the last Gene Hackman movies that was made. So
That's right. Yeah. And it's definitely like I think it's your like standard Wes Anderson movie. Like there's a lot of his movies where he kind of strays. Oh, what am I talking about? Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's up there for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific animation. 2009 was like a weirdly good year for kind of off-kilter animation. Like you had Fantastic Mr. Fox, you had Coraline, you had
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good year.
Yeah.
And, trying to think what else. Are there any other ones?
There was that 9 movie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. There were like a lot of stop motion animation movies.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I like he's also in that as well. He plays a rat in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What so also his character in Life Aquatic is a Werner Herzog reference.
Tell me about that. What's the reference to? Oh, his name.
His name is Klaus and he has a nephew named Werner.
I love that.
So and it's like about like a group of traveling filmmakers. So
Yep.
Yeah,
documentary.
I think that movie is definitely takes a lot from, of course, Jacques Cousteau and all the Bowie music, but it also kind of takes a lot from Werner Herzog movies as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think throughout much of the 2000s, he worked. Like we said, he worked a lot with Wes Anderson.
Martin Scorsese too, who's in your favorite movie, The Aviator.
Yeah, he was a detective in The Aviator.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
a small role. He was like a private investigator. But yeah, let's kind of jump forward in time a little bit because I think there's one that we both want to talk about, which is The Lighthouse.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, and we're skipping over. Also, my son, what have you done? Antichrist. Quite a few, but I would love to talk about. We should definitely talk about The Lighthouse.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that.
That was for sure one of my favorites of the last year, and also a very like a lot of the movies from last year and stuff that's coming in now from overseas. We kind of look at from a lens of like what's happening now in a lot of ways, like watching Parasite, watching The Lighthouse, Les Miserables from France, Bacurau from Brazil. They're all they feel very like of this moment in a lot of ways. And I think The Lighthouse, even though it takes place back in the day is almost like a quarantine movie.
I was thinking about that. I was like, where is he going from this? And I was like, oh, the quarantine perspective.
Yeah, they're stuck.
What if you're stuck with someone you absolutely hate?
Yeah. And like two of the best people to be stuck with in a movie is
For sure.
Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, who just look like gnarly in this movie.
I know, and Robert Pattinson, for me personally, he's actually one of my favorite actors. So and say what you will about Twilight, but if that's all you know him from, watch a little bit more.
You were originally into him even during the Twilight days.
During the Twilight years, I was like, this man is going to be good. But yeah. So looking at this movie, and you've got Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as these two lighthouse keepers. And you've just got to think, what has to be going through these men's head as they're stuck on this island in the freezing cold, just absolutely hating each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie goes between like different, like they go through different moods of like their relationship with each other. It's really interesting. Like they start out as kind of being like, he's like Willem Dafoe's like the boss man, and Robert Pattinson is like the guy who's working the crap job. And then it just becomes like all these different things, and they have these, hallucinations, or are they hallucinations? Yeah, and it's just a great horror film, I think.
Yep, and it's one of those things where it has a very small cast. Really, it is only
three actors, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And
we'll
really,
give away who the third person is.
Exactly, but it really does kind of center on those two, and you are stuck with them. But do you think The Lighthouse is the closest thing that Willem Dafoe has made to a horror movie?
No. Well, I don't know. Well, I guess no, because you've got Antichrist. Antichrist is the most horrifying movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a horror film, but it's also like similar to The Lighthouse. It's an art film as well. And Antichrist is certainly harder to watch than The Lighthouse. But both are, perfectly good films in their own way. Yeah. Do you think, trying to figure out how to phrase a question, thinking about The Lighthouse and Shutter Island, which do you think is the better horror film? Because they're both very similar, I think.
Which one is the better film? I don't know. Which one is the better horror film? I would have to go with, I think I would have to go with The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it had me horrified
Yeah.
at certain points. It had me laughing at certain points, and it had me on edge. So
yeah, there's some fart jokes in The Lighthouse.
Fart jokes. Yeah.
Lots of fart jokes. Yeah, I love that director a lot. I think his movies are very authentic historically, and he's just really good at creating mood. And the reason why I talk about Shutter Island so much is that I really love it as a movie, but as like a genre horror film, it doesn't stick to that.
I'm sorry. I don't know if it's supposed to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of one portion of it that has those horror elements, but I think it's kind of more of a psychological thriller.
Right. Or like a neo-noir sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a unique movie, Shutter Island. I keep coming back to it. It's so good. But yeah, The Lighthouse is fantastic. Did you see The Witch?
I haven't seen it yet.
Dude,
Dude.
it's so good. And I guess they were supposed to make a Viking movie, and Willem Dafoe was going to be in it. It was going to be that same director.
Robert Eggers.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that sounded cool.
Cool.
But yeah, I guess we could talk about the Florida Project also.
Yeah, let's do it. Before we do that, do you think Robert Eggers is the best horror director working today? Or
Uh, I don't know. That's really hard to say because I mean, yeah, you've got at least two other great horror directors, Jordan Peele and Ari Aster.
yep, of course, with
And
Midsummer.
yeah, and they're really well, I think Ari Aster's pretty similar, but they're both kind of different in their own way. I think Ari Aster's better with like modern horror, and Jordan Peele certainly has his thing from the African American perspective, and Robert Eggers kind of has like an historical thing, where he always is like in the world of that history. Like I think The Lighthouse, like it almost needs subtitles.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah. But I don't know. I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's certainly in the top three.
yeah. And I was going to agree with you. I was going to bring up those two other directors as well.
Mm-hmm.
That this is my pitch for horror movies, but there's a lot of really good horror out there right now, and you should definitely check out those three directors' filmographies.
Yeah, those are the three I can think about right now. I'm sure there's some others that we're forgetting, but those are some good ones.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Florida Project.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Florida Project?
I liked the Florida Project. I thought it was cute and heavy at the same time.
Yeah.
And I liked Willem Dafoe in it. I by the end of the movie, the softie in me wanted him to adopt the the kids at the motel.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. It's yeah. You feel bad for the kids.
You feel terrible for the kids.
Yeah.
and you feel bad for, the circumstances that lead the parents to making some of the choices that they have to make. So it's and I think that his character anyways has to kind of understand that and use his conscience to make decisions that have a positive effect on all of these people at the motel that he is operating.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting movie because it's kind of about these people that are, down and out, don't have a lot of money, mother that's having a hard time, and these kids that are just kind of there, and they seem to be having, like, from certain perspective, having a pretty good childhood, but they're not actually. And they're living in Florida near Disney World, but they're not really like in touch with that
right,
that kind of privilege, I guess.
Right, exactly. They certainly do not get to experience, that sort of privilege. And I think it's a good movie because it kind of it shows how tough kids can be, like, like
resilient.
Resilient. That was the word I was looking
for.
Thank you for phrasing that for me. But
Sure.
I think that it's one of those movies where it is definitely a kind of subset of American culture, if you will, that doesn't get represented too much in movies.
Yeah.
You would,
or not honestly, at least.
Yeah, not honestly. Like you don't always get that realistic perspective. You, like, for instance, at like at the end of the movie, you know, the when
Don't
child
spoil
protect
it.
I won't. I won't. I wasn't going to,
Okay, good.
but I was saying like, you know, something happens at the end of the movie with the children that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think would likely happen in that I think it presents in a way where it would happen in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of has this fantastical ending, which is really really kind of nice, but it's a little sad at the same time.
It's bittersweet for sure.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. But William is good. It's kind of like one of his only roles where he's like a normal person, which is really interesting and fun to watch to see he has so much range, you know. Because often, yeah, he does play like the Green Goblin or, um, you know, Jesus and the Last Temptation of the Christ, and
Right, right.
um, kind of like, you know, if you see Tilda Swinton in a role where she's just like somebody's mom, you're like, it's not. I have to
Yeah.
bring back my level of disbelief a little bit.
Did you ever see a movie where she was somebody's mom called We Need to Talk About Kevin?
Oh, that's right, she did. I never saw that one, but I saw another one. Um, I'm blanking on what it's called, but it came out like a year ago. But I have not
Okay.
seen that one.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
pretty heavy. So we've gone down the rabbit hole of Willem Dafoe and all things Willem. Um, we haven't mentioned so many other movies because he's made a lot, but we've kind of done the ones that we know about and we love. I'm sure I could have riffed off of Antichrist and Lars von Trier, who's definitely worth talking about. Challenging filmmaker, and there's a lot of stuff. All the Wes Anderson movies he's done.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
For sure.
but definitely one of the great actors of his time.
Yeah. And I'm glad we were able to talk about him a little bit and sing his praises because he is
Yeah,
a joy to watch.
yeah, he's one of the best.
Yep.
For sure. Um, so yeah, that closes this episode of Movie Mood. Yeah, we'll be back next week, and we'll be talking about some more movies.
All
Más
right.
películas para ti.
Stay well.